Tucker, can you give us a rundown of the current political landscape? Just tell us, I'm just really curious what you think about RFK, Biden, Trump, Vivek. Maybe like 10, 15 seconds on each.
It's so hard. It's so hard. I mean, I mean, the thing that jumps out today, my view changes all the time. I don't think Biden can be the nominee. His only point was to, stop Bernie Sanders, basically, and he's outlived his usefulness. So I think I'm pretty sure he'll be replaced. But as on the Republican side and the independents, it's so hard to know. I'm just mesmerized by the love for Nikki Haley, who's like the most, and I'm sorry, and like, for example, I saw Jamie Dimon, who I really like and I know, and I have always admired, but when Jamie Dimon starts like freeballing on, Nikki Haley and saying nonsensical things about Nikki Haley, I'm like, I want to call him and say, you're humiliating yourself. First of all, you're way out of your depth. You have no idea what you're talking about. But for another, you're just betraying how completely out of touch you were. And I think Jamie got, and again, I say this with admiration for Jamie Dimon, which is long held. But like, if you get to a place where you think that Nikki Haley has a shot of getting elected in a free and fair election, like you have no idea what's going on in your own country. It's just embarrassing to say that. It's super embarrassing.
Explain to the audience, unpack that. Why is Nikki Haley not very high?
It's not personal. I actually don't care for Nikki Haley as a person, but that's immaterial. Nikki Haley's program, or what she stands for, what she believes, maybe moral or immoral, God will judge. It's not popular with the public, and it's super easy to know that.
Her stance on war specifically, yeah.
Her stance on war and on economics. And we know that from looking at the Gallup poll, which is a rolling survey of people's attitudes on things. And in an actual democracy, you would see the leading candidates, or people who hope to become the leading candidates, articulate concerns and lay out views that reflected the concerns of the population who are going to vote them into office. But
Who does that the most right now?
Oh, Trump.
Is it fair to say Nikki Haley is basically an unreconstructed Bush Republican? I mean, her views are basically the same views as George W. Bush. She once again is in all sorts of new wars, and I don't even think she regrets the forever wars in the Middle East that were so disastrous. I haven't heard one word of criticism from her or remorse that she supported all of those things. And on the economic policies, this is kind of this like corporatism. It's like the whole Trump rebellion never even happened in the Republican Party. It's just like right back to the past. And the fact that the establishment sort of coalescing around her kind of tells me that as much as I didn't want to believe this, I think that Trump is still the indispensable figure in the Republican Party. Because if you take him away, they're going to revert right back to where they were. They're going to go right back to the factory settings of Republicans, which is Bush Republicanism.
Tucker, can you just finish the rest of them?
Yeah,
RFK, please. Vivek, Trump.
Well, I mean, I know Vivek well personally, and it shows that I'm out of touch too. I mean, I'm 54, so I don't have my finger on every pulse. But so I like Vivek actually. But I see these surveys where he's not, he's not doing well and people don't like his personality or whatever. He's a little overbearing. That never bothers me at all. I'm just not put off by that at all. And I'm a little bit confused by why he's not doing better. Again, that's a reflection on, I've just made fun of Jamie Dimon. Here I am doing it myself. Like, why isn't Vivek doing better? I'm sure there are reasons. I just don't. I think his program is solid. I think he's reasonable. I think he's smart. I don't think he has some creepy agenda. But he's not doing well. That's just a fact. Bobby Kennedy, I know quite well and think a lot of him. And I think he's a decent man and a principled person. I think he's smart. I don't have quite as much confidence in maybe some of the people around him. I feel like maybe there are other agendas that he's not aware of. I don't know. I can't assess. But so that's what I think
President
of that.
Trump?
Well, I mean, the New York Times had a piece, I think it was Jonathan Swan, who's smart, and had a piece telling you what you already knew, kind of, but proving it with numbers, that Trump became the nominee in August of last year, 2022, when the FBI went through his wife's underwear drawer in his house. Like, that was so insane that even if you're like, I can't deal with more Trump, and he didn't actually do anything, and put Jared in charge of, there are lots of frustrations you could have about Trump if you supported Trump, and you could be disappointed. But the second the FBI raids his house on a documents charge, and anyone from Washington, as I am, can tell you that's like insane. Like that's like so common. It's not, if they're charging him for that, that's a joke. Where are the felonies he supposedly committed? I was led to believe he like murdered people and buried them in the Meadowlands. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the best they got when they did that. I know for a fact, and this piece showed it, but I knew it already. A lot of people are like, you know, I have mixed feelings about Trump, or I don't want to deal with more Trump drama. But if this is allowed to happen, our system won't continue. That's so outrageous that, I mean, let's just stop lying about it. That's a political prosecution. You can't have that. Of the presidential frontrunner, you can't have that. We already did it with Nixon. You can't do that again. And so I think that's the key to his surge. I really do think that.
Who's the Democratic nominee if you think Biden's not going to be?
Oh, it's Gavin.
Nominee?
Gavin.
It's
Gavin for sure. Well, of course, because he's by far the most evil person in the Democratic Party. And in the end, they just sort of rise to the peak, you know, oil and water, man. It's just gonna, yeah.
Tucker, just comment on Gavin vetoing the bill that said that you could kind of remove the child from the parents if the parents don't affirm the transgender rights of the child. That, I think there was a lot of folks who sit in your camp typically who were shocked and surprised and said, wow, I didn't know Gavin actually, you know, had a span of opinions. And this is interesting to see. I mean, there's no
one I know who thought that. And everyone I know who watched that thought the same thing they thought when he met with Xi, which is, oh, he's going to be the nominee. Yeah. I mean, of course, that's what that was. I mean, I know Gavin Newsom, and you know, I think a lot about Gavin Newsom, many different things about Gavin Newsom. But one thing I know for a fact about Gavin Newsom is he has the capacity to beat a lie detector test. Gavin Newsom will say anything he needs to say, and not like Biden's not like this, actually. Whatever Biden's fault, he's not like this. Like Biden would, you know, he has like guilt. If he's lying to you, he gets twitchy. Gavin Newsom's palms don't sweat. His respiration doesn't increase. His body temperature doesn't change. Nothing changes in Gavin Newsom when he lies to your face. And there are not that many people like that, actually. That's a rare quality. Like to lock down the state, to keep people's kids from getting an education, and to arrest people for surfing, and then go have dinner at the French Laundry. Like most people couldn't do that. They'd just be like,
You're saying he's a sociopath. He can lie and not care.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but so I don't really know the category, and I'm not going to diagnose him, but I'll just say in 50 years of being around a lot of people, I've met very few who can behave that way. Very, very few. It's a very unusual quality, and of course, it's probably useful in politics.
Is he electable?
Yeah, exactly. Are the American people going to see that the way that you see it, or?
Well, as you know, the system in California does not include elections. I mean, it has nothing to do with what the people think. It's a machine state. It's the most corrupt out of 50. Kamala Harris was like despised by most Californians, and she, you know, was a sitting U.S. senator. Poor Dianne Feinstein, my neighbor in Washington. I don't think she was a horrible person, just for the record, but she was non compos menis, and like she could have lived well beyond her death as a U.S. senator. So it's like it's not a democratic state, small d democratic state. It's not run on the basis of what the population wants. It's a fixed game in California, and so it does make me very uncomfortable that someone from that political culture, which is an utterly corrupt political culture, an authoritarian political culture, could like enter a presidential race. Because like clearly, what are you running on if you're Gavin Newsom? As a native Californian, you know, I know what the state was like in 1985 because I lived there, and it's completely degraded from that time. And like, how did that happen? Well, part of the big reason is the political leadership in the state. You've got nothing to run on. What are you running? Have you driven through LA recently? Like, seriously. So the fact that he would get in the race suggests, you know, they think that they can win without the consent of voters. And that freaks me out.
Well, he'll have the media working on overdrive for him, right? I mean, they will turn him somehow into like John F. Kennedy or something. I mean, they will paper over all of his flaws, and they'll basically write puff pieces. It'll be like nonstop. And then they'll be attacking Trump. So the media will put him over the top, I think, if he
Well, assuming that we have the same media that we had in 2020, that's true. But I mean, that's why you just got to pray every night for Elon's health. And I mean it, too. I mean it. It's the only platform at scale in the world that's pretty, you know, there's censorship on it, but there's not mass censorship, actually. There isn't. And that's the only platform of its kind at scale.